So, J. Ruud,
Yeah.
what lovable book are we talking about today?
Well, Stacey Margaret Jones, I'll give you a hint. Stonehenge.
Oof. These aren't hints. Welcome to Between the Covers, the weekly podcast in which author J. Ruud makes the case for one lovable novel each week from his list of the 100 most lovable novels in the English language. And I, author Stacey Margaret Jones, who is also his wife, ask him questions. And pipe up with my own feelings and opinions, and my opinions about my feelings. All right, so have I read this book?
I believe you have.
Okay. Stonehenge.
It had been a long time ago.
All right. Hint number 2, please.
Hint number 2, ancient Norman nobility.
Hint number 3, please.
Hint number 3, angel.
Oh, I don't know.
Would it help if I said Angel Clare?
Is it a Hardy book?
Yes.
Is it Tess of the D'Urbervilles?
It is indeed.
So Angel Clare did help.
It certainly did.
Goodness gracious.
Great
All
ball of
right.
fire.
Well, clearly I hardly remember it. So.
Well,
All right. Well, that's exciting. You know, I think Hardy has the best novel titles. I mean, Tess of the D'Urbervilles, but I don't even know if I'm saying that right. Probably not. But I love Jude the Obscure and Far from the Madding Crowd.
Yes.
I was just watching something where somebody said it was a British police show, and they asked the suspect where he was during the crime, and he said, home, reading a book. And they said, what book? And he said, Jude the Obscure. And I was like, oh, I've never read it, but I love it.
So, Hardy always thought of himself as a poet, but he wrote novels to pay the bills.
We studied several of his poems in the intro poetry class I teach. I don't know, I like the poems maybe better than the students do.
Yeah.
We do Channel Firing, and the poem I mentioned in the last episode, The Ruud Maid.
Yeah, he's a great poet.
Well, he's commenting on Victorian society.
Well, most of his poetry comes out
He's late.
Early modern.
Yeah,
But he's late Victorian as a novelist. He's early modern.
Yeah,
poet.
exactly. So he's an interesting fellow.
But I mean, in late Victorian England, Dickens died in 1870. George Eliot died in 1880.
Mm-hmm.
And really, in the last 2 decades of the century, it's Hardy who's kind of the major novelist.
Yeah.
And he has 5. I mean, he wrote a lot of novels, but there's 5 that are just pure classic novels.
Right.
Far from the Madding Crowd. The title comes from Thomas Gray's Elegy in the Country Churchyard.
I know.
That was his earlier. It came out in 1874. That one is ranked as number 48 on the BBC Big Read survey, and was ranked as number 10 on the Guardian's list of the greatest love stories of all time.
You don't need to give us rankings of other books.
Well, I'm just
cheating.
telling you how well he was thought of. Return of the Native in
that's another one, yeah.
1878. That was the first Hardy novel that I read. It was an assignment in my senior English class in high school. And I've always loved that book. I was riveted by it even then. And that's on the BBC list of the 100 greatest British novels. And on the Penguin list of the readers' favorites. Mayor of Casterbridge in 1886 also appears on the BBC Greatest British Novels list. Jude the Obscure is probably the most acclaimed of Hardy's novels. And it's his last novel. It came out in 1895. And that's on the BBC list, as well as the Guardian's list of the 100 greatest novels in English, and the Observer's list of the 100 greatest novels of all time. And I have great respect for all 4 of those.
Yeah, but you didn't pick them.
But I didn't pick them because the one I love the most is Tess of the D'Urbervilles.
Well, I think you can tell he's a poet from his novel titles, because he knows how to put some words together.
Yeah.
to be evocative and imagistic and, meaningful in the mind. So, all right. Well, you've told us who else likes his other books. Why don't you tell us who else likes Tess?
Well, this actually is on 38 great books lists, according to the Greatest Books of All Time website. It's on the College Board's list of 101 great books recommended for college-bound readers. It's on the Center for Fiction's 200 books that shaped 200 years of literature.
Oh, wow.
It's on the OCLC Complete 500 as the 44th most commonly found book in library shelves. Mm-hmm. It's on Penguin Classics, 100 must-read classics chosen by their readers. It's number 38 there. It's 28th on the BBC's Big Read. It was 17th on the Telegraph's 100 novels everyone should read. It was 17th as well on Bookman's 100 favorite novels of librarians. Your favorite list. And on the very selective list of 30 books every adult should read before they die.
Oh my goodness.
Compiled by the British Museums, Libraries, and Archives Society.
Oh my goodness.
It was number 14.
All right.
So,
I have a question as an aside. Have you read all the 30 books on that list?
I have no idea what the other 29 are. I only know that this is number 14 on that
looks like
list.
a project. All right. So, can you give us the down and dirty summary? You earned the Hearts of Glory last week.
Yeah.
Can you do it again?
Let me see. There's a couple ways to go with my summary, but I'll try the more thematic one. Tess is a woman. She's subject to sexual harassment at work. She's eventually the victim of rape, but in a society that sees her as subject to male hegemony, she can find no comfort from the all-male clergy who refuse her child baptism, nor from her double-standard husband who implies she must have wanted her abuser to rape her. Nevertheless, as an impoverished woman, she's ultimately forced into a consensual relationship with her abuser and rapist out of financial necessity, her own and her family's. So that is my sort of thematic summary.
Well, you win the Harps of Glory, but boy, that book does not sound lovable.
Well, it's not, again, it's not one of those that's lovable because
it's uplifting and
you're
happy.
Yeah, you're
No,
joyously reading it.
I don't remember the ins and outs, but I do remember that her life is, she is a leaf in the wind, and the wind is patriarchal and classist and capitalistic.
Yeah.
And she doesn't have an upper hand in any of those areas. But it reminds me of the movie we saw last night, because we were watching the Volver by Pedro Almodovar about the women in Spain, the Penelope Cruz movie. And my commentary at the end was, this movie really makes a point that the hardest thing about being a woman is the men. Because, they all were mistreated by men and, had to live with the consequences, right?
Yeah.
And yet their relationships with each other were, meaningful and affirmative and they weren't perfect, right? They disagreed and, they kept secrets and they were people. But it's funny that you picked this book today after we watched that movie last night.
Oh.
So interesting. All right. Well,
It kind of reminds you, or it reminds me anyway, of The Scarlet Letter.
Well, actually, I was thinking, that's funny, we do share a brain. Because I was thinking The Scarlet Letter while you were talking about the summary. Because I was like, oh, it's got a little Hester Prynne in it.
It does indeed. Unfortunately,
Tess doesn't have the wherewithal of Hester Prynne.
She's unable to do what Hester Prynne was able to do, which
Right.
is kind of rise above things and live her own life.
Be self-directed in that way, or have an internal locus of control, because her society is hell-bent on controlling her locus.
Yeah. And she is a poor working class young woman who doesn't have an out.
Right. When is the novel set?
I think it's supposed to be relatively contemporary.
So what year again?
Well, it was published in 1891.
Okay.
So,
Okay, so it was set in the late 19th century.
Yeah, because these sort of patriarchal relationships could have been any time, but her jobs that she takes reflect the society of the time. All of Hardy's novels are set in a county that he calls Wessex, which is not a genuine county.
Right. It's fictional.
It kind of takes up most of what actually was the original Wessex of King Alfred the Great's time.
Oh, interesting.
But it's sort of, Hardy is kind of like Faulkner this way. Faulkner's got this fictional Yakapatawpha County, Mississippi.
Right.
And Hardy's got this fictional Wessex in the southwest of Britain. And it's really the area in which he grew up. But during this time period, things are changing, and the old farmers, the old relationships with the land are being changed by kind of industrialized farming. There's one scene, Tess has two jobs. One is kind of almost a pastoral sort of setting where she works with the cows. She milks them at a dairy farm.
I remember that.
And it's kind of, it's a nice place. That's where she meets Angel, who becomes her husband. But then she's forced to take another job because when Angel finds out about her past, which she hasn't told him about, she keeps telling herself, I gotta tell him about my past or he's going to be upset with me after we get married. But she just doesn't do it, and then they get married, and then she tells him, and then he essentially disowns her. He can't have anything to do with it. But anyway, after that, he tries to make sure she has money to live on, but her family, particularly her father, they kind of drain her of everything she had.
Oh yeah, I remember that. They were part of her problem.
Yeah.
She had a lot of problems, and her family was one of them.
Yeah, especially her father.
Yeah.
Her mother isn't much better, but they we need this money. So she basically gives them the money that he gave her, and now she's got to work to try to live. And she has to take this job further north, which is on a sort of newly industrialized farm. There's a scene where she's working on this reaping machine, and she has to keep feeding it, and it's like factory piecework, and it's a really unpleasant situation that's come in with these new industrialized ways of farming, and also the small farms are being bought up by large.
Yeah, I was going to say Hardy is at the end of one era and the beginning of another, and that always gives writers a lot to write about, right? Because of the clash of culture for the same people, right? You don't have to come up against someone who is different from you. You just wake up in the morning and things are different, right? Yeah. And are you fighting it and going to lose? Are you going ahead and try to, stay ahead of the wave, the tsunami? And he dies after Victoria has died, but it doesn't just have to do with the culture of the ruler, but what's happening in the world and how you make money to live. Yeah. And of course, the people at the bottom have the least agency and control. Yeah. And are affected first and hardest, right? Yeah. And he's writing about those people.
Yeah. And then those are her people. And in the older times, they could work on the land where they've lived there for generations and generations. Right. But now, if you are not someone who's hired by the larger company that now owns the farm, you got to leave your house that you've lived in, that your family has lived in for hundreds of years.
Right, because you had an agreement, right? Like, we'll leave here and do your work, and we'll have a place to live, and if you have a good kind of lord, they'll care about your family and maybe help you if you're sick or those things. Yeah. This is basically 25 years before Downton Abbey begins, and Downton Abbey is set then because that world is changing so much.
Yeah. When Tess's father dies, her mother and her siblings are thrown out.
I was going to say.
The place where they've been living.
I bet he didn't leave him a lot of money.
Oh, he had no money.
Right.
He did have the name. His actual name was Derbyfield. But in the very beginning of the novel, this priest of the area meets him as he's coming home drunk one night, which he does every night, and tells him, I've been doing this research in the genealogy of the town. Your name is Derbyfield, but you're actually descended from the D'Urbervilles, who were the lords of this area. They were the ancient Norman nobility, and you've sort of fallen off, obviously, from the nobility, but that's where your genealogy is.
Come down in the world.
Yeah, but of course hey, I'm noble,
Yeah.
Anyway, and that's actually what gets Tess into trouble, because they think they have this name. They want her to go and introduce herself to the D'Urbervilles, who have this big estate, who actually aren't ancient D'Urbervilles. The guy is now dead, but his wife is still living there. He made a lot of money, bought up some land, looked into history. Who used to be the lord here, and are there any of them around anywhere? No. Well, let's take this name.
Right.
So they're not related at all.
Right.
But she goes there. She gets hired, and the son of the house is Alec D'Urberville, and he's the one who ends up raping her.
Yeah, I remember that. I don't remember a lot of the specifics of what happened. I just remember that she cannot win for losing, and she has no fault in it. That's what's so frustrating about the novel. It's not like, like you were talking last week about the characters in Vanity Fair, and you get frustrated with them, right? Like Dobbin can't, he doesn't stand up for himself, and he doesn't say what he wants, and for Tess, she's not doing things wrong, but the system is wrong, right? Like, I guess it goes back to that saying that the system produces what the system is designed to produce. Yeah. And it's designed to keep poor people poor and powerless, and to make them just things to be used by richer, powerful people.
Pretty much, yeah.
But it's interesting that Hardy, it's subversive, and Dickens is subversive in that way as well. Like, we have this society. What we talk about in our society is the great and the good, but these are real people too, and this is how they live.
Yeah.
And how do we say that we're great and good, right, when this is happening, right? And Hardy really does have focus like that. And when you read his poem Channel Firing, that's very subversive, right?
Yeah.
Because that's before World War I, right?
Yeah.
And
right before.
Yeah, and they're testing, armaments and stuff, and they're waking the dead in the graveyard.
Yeah.
And the dead are all just like, man, I wish I'd smoked more pipes when I was alive. And God is like, yeah, this is never going to stop happening. Like, lie down, this will never end. And I just think it's such a great poem, and I think Hardy is, he's a revolutionary in his way by saying, these are the people upon which your society is built, and these are their lives.
Yeah.
And they're kind of horrifying.
Well, yeah. But in particular, it's Tess as a woman.
Yeah, exactly.
So, the industrialization is something that keeps down lower classes in general.
Right.
It's, the patriarchy that keeps down women in particular, and both of them get kind of lambasted in this. But Hardy makes sure that you don't at any point think that he thinks what the rest of society thinks.
Right.
He subtitles the novel, A Pure Woman Faithfully Presented.
Oh my God, it's so pitiable. Well, it's what I said. She doesn't do anything wrong.
No, but society blames her.
Well, the oppressors love to blame the oppressed.
Yeah.
You asked for it, right? It's your fault.
Yeah. And that's how most people feel. Now, to be fair to Alec D'Urberville, which is very difficult to do because...
Oh, God. Watch it.
He did not know that she was pregnant. He just basically left her afterwards. She never told him that she was going to have a baby.
I thought he was the one who raped her.
He did. But he doesn't know that
that
there's a baby there. He never knew it. she has the baby, and so I mean she goes through all the shame of being an unwed mother. She can't get anybody to baptize the kid.
Right.
Because the clergy don't come across well in this novel.
Well, they're instruments of the state.
Yeah, and they're definitely instruments of this moral patriarchy.
Well, and when you have a nationalized religion, clergy are, they have a governmental agenda, so to speak.
Yeah, she baptizes the baby herself.
Wow, that's heretical.
Well, not really. I mean, it's allowable if you can't find somebody to find a clergy person to baptize. So she baptizes the baby herself. It's very sickly, and before too long it dies. She named it Sorrow.
Oh, God.
And she buries it herself. Or him herself.
Yeah.
But and then she goes off and gets the job at the dairy place, where she's far enough away she hopes that nobody will remember who she is or what happened. Angel Clare, he's working at the farm in order to learn how to farm, because he's the son of a clergyman, but he wants to be a farmer.
Mm-hmm.
His two older brothers, are going to Oxford, and they're going to go into the church in some way or another. But he wants to be a farmer, so he's learning, and he's in love with Tess. He's captivated by how beautiful she is, and he's particularly focused on the beauty of her mouth and lips. And there's a description that Hardy makes.
Perfect. He, as a lover, might have called them offhand, but no, they were not perfect. And it was the touch of the imperfect upon the would-be perfect that gave the sweetness, because it was that which gave the humanity. So and yet her humanity is too much for him.
Well, yeah. But that does imply that perfection is not what the most beautiful thing is.
Right.
It's that little human thing.
Right, and I think that's true when you think of maybe the women that the world thinks are the most beautiful. Oftentimes, their looks aren't, conventional at all. They're kind of unusual, or, they have something. Because oftentimes it isn't really even just their looks, right? It's, their charisma or how they present, right?
Yeah, I think the allusion there is to the sin.
I was going to say the original sin.
Yeah, she's like Eve after the fall.
Well, and his name is Angel.
Yeah.
And is Clare like the poor Clares? Isn't that a religious order?
Well, it is, yeah. The female Franciscan order.
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting.
That's the only thing I'm sure there might be other reasons for the name, but
I'm thinking that people become human after the fall.
Oh, so she has this kind of human imperfection, because she's been raped.
Yeah.
And had a child.
Yeah, and that's, if he had any sense, he would appreciate that. What happens when she tells it? She's waited to tell him, and she has told him before the wedding, like right before the wedding, I have to tell you something about my past. And he says, wait till after the wedding, and I'll tell you all about mine too. So he confesses first that he has had this affair with some other woman.
Right.
And she thinks, oh, okay, well, he'll be perfectly understanding.
Oh, she's so naive. That's adorable.
And she sees it as basically the same thing. He sees it as, oh my God, you're a woman.
He probably thinks he's amazing for telling her. He probably was like, look at me, how evolved I am. I'm telling this to my wife. But, yeah, because if you're a man and you look at your wife as something that you own, and that the ownership of her reflects on your character, then you are going to be concerned with how she makes you look.
Yeah.
Instead of loving her as a person and having compassion for the things that happened to her that caused her pain and that weren't her fault, but even if they were her fault, like when you love somebody, right, it should encompass, it can encompass and accommodate those things.
Well, yeah.
But, maybe he doesn't love her as a person.
Well,
Or he feels constrained by society.
yeah, it is kind of interesting because he really wants to be kind of a rebel. That's why he's
Yeah.
going to be a farmer and not going to the church, and he wants to do what society doesn't necessarily expect him to do. But
Not that much.
one of the things that kind of attracts him to Tess is her name.
The D'Urberville.
The D'Urberville name of the ancient noble clan.
So he's a climber.
Well, not really. I mean, he has this kind of pose that he thinks nobility is baloney, and appreciating people for who their forebears were is just silliness. But he knows that his father will think it's a good thing.
Oh, okay. It can be useful.
Yeah, and so he's kind of into that.
Okay.
But once he finds this out, he can't bring himself to be with her. The thing is, I think he seems to know that he's wrong, but he can't talk himself out of this feeling, and he decides he's going to go to Brazil. Apparently,
he's going to take the geographic cure.
Yeah, apparently there was at the time a lot of British farmers were going to Brazil to see if they could make something happen there, and there's a lot of land apparently that people could get cheap. So he goes to Brazil and tries to farm there, but after several years, probably I think about 3 years or so, he finally comes to the realization that I really should go back to Tess. that he has been wrong all this time. And he comes back only to find things have changed.
Yeah, don't tell me too much.
I'm not gonna. But her rapist, Alec D'Urberville, she hasn't seen since that day. But he suddenly turns up the place where she's working at this industrialized job as an itinerant preacher.
Wow.
And he sees her, and he kind of chases her.
Gives me chills.
But he's chasing her to apologize to her and to tell her that he had this kind of coming to Jesus. He's reformed because this clergyman had talked to him after seeing him in kind of some drunken binge, and he's taken what that clergyman said to heart, and he's become himself a kind of itinerant preacher. The clergyman was Angel's father.
Oh.
Who, I mean,
yeah.
There's no other connection, but it's a strange coincidence.
Yeah, it's like one of those novels where there's 6 people in the world. Like Jane Eyre.
Yeah.
Everybody ends up knowing each other, or related to each other.
But then, because he has seen Tess, he isn't strong enough in his faith to suppress his attraction to Tess, and he starts to pursue her again, even though she's still married.
Because she's obviously, I guess they wouldn't get divorced or anything. They just have to be married to each other.
Just separated.
Yeah.
And so he's pursuing her, and of course he blames her for his own weakness. He says, "You temptress Tess, you dear damned witch of Babylon, I could not resist you as soon as I met you again." Her response to his becoming a preacher is very telling.
Top.
Yeah.
You and those like you take your fill of pleasure on earth by making the life of such as me bitter and black with sorrow. And then it is a fine thing, when you have had enough of that, to think of securing your pleasure in heaven by becoming converted.
Yeah. But, of course.
But also, it's like, well, what was the woman wearing when she was attacked?
Yeah.
How much had she had to drink?
Yeah.
I mean, the fault is the fault of the person who does the thing. That is who is at fault.
Yeah.
But also, to give responsibility for a crime to the victim undermines the whole idea of responsibility, which is to the criminal's benefit.
Yeah. So I I guess this book is lovable because
you anticipated my question. I loved it. I mean, I remember it was a page turner. I was really interested in it, and I was really invested in Tess.
Yeah. I mean, the plot itself is compelling. The themes of the book make it the most currently, I think, relevant of all of Hardy's novels.
Yeah.
Well, we're really speaks to today.
We're really in the beginning of a new era too, with the information age, and honestly, the kind of information age part, with AI, which is changing so many things, and it's changing so many things for how people work and who works, and who gets chosen to work, and. I mean, we don't know what it's going to do to us. You know, the law is not keeping ahead of the developments of AI, right? Mm-hmm. And so you can really say that in many ways, you know, it's the impact, I think, is going to be greater than the Industrial Revolution in some ways. And when you're at the beginning of an era like that, it's violent, right? Because it just shakes the foundations of everything for everyone.
Yeah, the patriarchal and misogynist basis of our laws have not changed in centuries. And all you have to do is look at, for instance, if you want to talk about current events, look at the Epstein files.
I was just thinking of that.
Here, the Congress says to the Justice Department, you have to turn in all the Epstein files by this date. So what they get is pages and pages of everything being expurgated that would condemn the men who were responsible for the crimes.
And all we have to do is believe the women. It's not like the women aren't saying what happened to them. They are saying it. All we have to do is just believe them. But no, the men have to wait for the men to give them files with the men's name. Like, it is so ludicrous. But you're right. I mean, it's the
same thing.
It's still happening. And it's still happening.
Well, another thing that's lovable about this, I think.
Oh, is that lovable?
That's lovable. It's lovable in that it's relevant, I think. It has something to say about time.
It's relevant, and I also feel like when I read it that it felt very real. He's such a good writer that the characters are not two-dimensional. They're not just propagandistic devices, right? Like they really feel like people, and these things are happening to real people, and it gives you a sense of, you know, what all these societal forces mean to real people's lives.
Yeah.
So, going on.
This is the realist period of literature, but it actually is late realism. It's naturalism.
Yeah.
Hardy's in the same kind of class of writers as Jack London and Stephen Crane and Frank Norris, Upton Sinclair.
Yeah.
It's post-Darwinian, so there's something about this survival of the fittest kind of idea. There's something about the natural forces being things that you can't escape from. And it's also kind of self-consciously a tragic novel. Tess is essentially a tragic heroine, but it's a different kind of tragedy than Elizabethan tragedy, where someone from a high position falls.
She's got nowhere to fall. But she can't get up.
Well, she can't. She does have some place to fall to. She just doesn't fall as far because she's not that high. But she falls.
Yeah.
But is it through tragic flaw? Is it through ancient Greek tragedy? Aristotle called the purpose for the fall hamartia, which meant failure to hit the mark, which is basically a mistake is made somewhere.
Did she make the mistake of telling Angel?
That's a mistake. The mistake of letting Alec d'Urberville... she lets him give her a ride, basically. He's going to give her a ride home because she's kind of stuck in a place where there's a fight going on. He says, I'll give you a ride home. And he doesn't go to her house. He goes somewhere off in the middle of the woods and And then Hardy doesn't specifically say she was raped.
Well,
But he says, he makes it pretty clear in an offhand way. But when this was serialized in the periodical The Graphic,
oh, okay.
and they censored the most controversial parts. So the unexpurgated novel wasn't published until it was published as a whole book later that year. And it got mixed reviews because some of the Victorian critics thought it was just going too far. Robert Louis Stevenson called the novel vile.
Bless.
So, yeah, it's...
Bless.
So even though it's not kind of graphically described, it's described in a way that everybody knew what was happening.
And Hardy was like, I'll call that a win. He put it on his wall and framed it.
Yeah. But...
you were talking about another reason it's lovable, and I got you off track by talking about them.
Well, it's lovable, I think, because of the tragic.
Right.
But in the tragic universe, in the Elizabethan tragic universe or the ancient Greek tragic universe, the gods are in charge.
Right.
And
there doesn't seem to be any gods.
No, not even the omnipotent Christian God, because here's what the narrator says immediately after the description of Tess's deflowering.
But, might some say, where was Tess's guardian angel? Where was the providence of her simple faith? Perhaps like that other god of whom the ironical Tishbite spoke, he was talking, or he was pursuing, or he was on a journey, or he was sleeping, and not to be awaked.
Oh, that's cold. So yeah, there is no guardian angel in this universe.
There's no gods. What there is the system.
Yeah, that's what's in control.
And that's not good for someone like Tess.
She can't understand, and if we're seeing this as a tragedy and trying to figure out where she went wrong, she can't figure it out. Yeah.
Never in her life, she could swear it from the bottom of her soul, had she ever intended to do wrong. Yet these hard judgments had come. Whatever her sins, they were not sins of intention, but of inadvertence. And why should she have been punished so persistently?
Yeah. It's a persistent punishment for someone who meant well, who never meant harm.
So it's Hardy shining the light on the fact that the people at the bottom of society pay the price for the sins of the whole society.
Yeah, pretty much.
And it just, falls on their shoulders.
Yeah.
Because, like you say in the Epstein files, powerful men are getting away with things all the time.
Yeah. By the end of the novel, the narrator says, justice was done, justice in quotation marks.
Mm-hmm.
And the president of the immortals, in Aeschylean phrase, had ended his sport with Tess. And the d'Urberville knights and dames slept on in their tombs. So Hardy undercuts the idea of tragedy in that tragedy asks the question that Tess asked here, what is the purpose of this suffering?
Right.
Why does this suffering happen in a world that's governed by a benevolent God? And the answer is there ain't no benevolent God here.
Or that God is not at work in the world in the way that would help somebody.
Yeah. At least not in the way that would help Tess.
The suffering happens because it benefits somebody else.
Yeah.
Who doesn't care. Who doesn't know she individually exists, and if they do, they don't care.
Or God is society. It's society that determines what's going to happen to her. And
right.
This is all kind of prefigured early in the novel. The thing that really starts Tess on the road downward is that her father gets home drunk and too late to make a delivery at the next town that he's supposed to make. So Tess takes the horse and carriage. She's the oldest of the siblings. She takes the horse and she decides she's going to go and deliver this thing herself. She falls asleep, and the horse impales itself on this.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it's like it's like a knight being speared by a lance. The horse dies, and she has to make money to
because they can't
replace the horse.
And the horse is probably the most valuable thing they own.
Yeah,
and they have to have it.
Yeah. And she has this little conversation with one of her siblings that kind of tells you what things are going to be like.
Did you say the stars were worlds, Tess? Yes. All like ours? I don't know, but I think so. They sometimes seem to be like the apples on our stubborn tree, most of them splendid and sound, a few blighted. Which do we live on, a splendid one or a blighted one? A blighted one.
Well, one other definition of tragedy is that the tragic hero's death is something that cures the world. It's sort of a sacrifice for the world, which is made better by their death.
There's progress made. The tragedy is part of a kind of progression.
Yeah.
Right.
Like as Hamlet says, the time's out of joint, and cursed spite that ever I was born to set it right. So his death has got to make things better. And there's a scene toward the end of Tess where she's fleeing from the police who are trying to capture her. And she comes upon Stonehenge. And she sleeps on what actually was the altar. So she's
the sacrifice.
If you read it yourself, you can decide if there's any improvement by the end to her sacrifice.
Interesting.
I guess you won't be surprised to know she dies, since it's a tragedy. But anyway, that's all I have to say about that.
Well, it sounds too like gratifying to read because Hardy it's not propagandistic or, Hardy isn't saying, it's her fault she's poor or,
No.
he's using the
She's
natural.
a pure woman faithfully presented.
He's using naturalism and realism to make the point that there are people who suffer from, they aren't causing their own suffering and they can't get ahead of it. And that's very relevant, I think, today as well when we're talking about cutting healthcare and, food benefits and, all these people, you see all this commentary about, well, they should just get a job and it's just like, oh yeah, wow, thanks for telling everybody that. It's just this reluctance to understand that people suffer and it's not their fault, even though if any one of those people making those comments would probably say that they suffer in ways that aren't their fault, right? Like we all do. But it's just, anyway. Well, why might someone not like us?
Well, you seem to have implied there's a lot of darkness here.
Yeah. Well, sometimes, I love sad things, but also sometimes to read about a darkness that you have observed or you feel is out there, and to have somebody else say it's out there is, I hate to use the word affirming or I guess validating. Like, somebody else says, yeah, it is rough out there, but maybe that's not for everybody. Maybe that's not what everybody wants in their recreational read time.
Maybe not.
All right, well, how are we ranking this one?
Oh,
on the list thus far.
I'm putting this at number 40.
Okay.
Actually right after Cloud Cuckoo Land.
Oh, okay. We did not too long ago.
Yeah. And right above Waiting for the Barbarians.
Oh, those are interesting novels to read together.
Yeah, it does seem to somehow link with Waiting for the Barbarians in my head.
Well, and Coetzee did a lot of what Hardy does too, I think. It's just take a very cold and realistic, he turns a realistic eye on things that people would rather not know about.
Yeah.
So those are good novels to read together.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you for that. That was interesting.
So time for Chaos Reader.
Okay. Well, since this is our first episode of 2026, I believe, I thought I would talk about my reading goals for the year. And usually I always kind of say, okay, I'm going to read one more book than last year. And this year I think I'm reading 16 books less than last year. So I didn't make my goal. But we're going to have more about this later. But we'll have a lot of change, I think, coming in our lives this year. So I've decided that I'm going to do this thing where I'm just going to read some big books that I've put off because I didn't want them to negatively influence my reading goal. So I'm going to finish the Ford biography, and then I will also read Carter and Reagan in 2026. But I think in 2026 I want to read Bleak House. I want to read Little Women. I want to make progress in the Sylvia Plath letters because those are huge books. And now I want to read Vanity Fair because we talked about it last time. And so I thought, well, and also having a big book to go back to when a lot of things are changing around you is really comforting. Because I remember I read Black Lamb and Grey Falcon and Middlemarch when I moved to Prague. Those are both really long books. You know, Black Lamb and Grey Falcon is kind of a deep travel map, so to speak, of the former Yugoslavia. And of course Middlemarch is long and, you know, involved. And so I had a lot of kind of upheaval, I think, just living in a country I didn't speak the language, you know, learning my job, learning how to get around, etc. So Middlemarch was a real comfort to me because I could take that out and read on the tram and go back to this place, you know, in my mind that was consistent when everything else was changing. So I think this is 2026 is going to be the year of the big book for me. And I'm excited to do that because I know what a joy it is to go into a world like that and stay there for a while. So that's my goal. And if you're listening to this somewhere, you can comment. We'd love to hear what your reading goals are for 2026. And if any of the books we've covered are on your list for 2026, that would be fun to find out as well. So we'd like to thank our producing sensei, Jerry Bruno, who has helped us along the way with this. We could never do it without him. And we'd like to thank our listeners and viewers. Obviously, we wouldn't do it without those of you out there who tune in and
both of you
and share and write us emails, and you know, that's just absolutely lovely. Like, I can't tell you how much joy that brings us. So we're very grateful, and we look forward to more book podcasts in 2026. So Happy New Year, and we'll see you next week. Between the covers.